Welcome, everybody. My name is Damien. I have been an Apple admin for almost 30 years now, and I work at Corning Incorporated, the big glass company. This is a topic that I know a little bit about. I'll be honest, I kind of fell into this. I am by no means an expert in accessibility, but in my work with people at my company, I've been able to dive into accessibility a little bit, and I thought, hey, I've learned all these really interesting things about accessibility. I'm going to share it with the community because what I've discovered is that there are things built into the accessibility options in the operating system that every one of us in this room can use. So let's get the legal thing out of the way. The views expressed in this presentation are not representative of my company. I do work for Corning Incorporated, but this is me presenting as Damien, as an expert in Apple's operating systems and about the accessibility options within. Okay. I am a former school teacher, so I like to make these presentations as interactive as possible. If you guys could pull your phone up, scan this QR code, and go to the Menti form. This is a quick quiz. You can work on this as I go through the slide deck. If you know of an accessibility tip that you'd like to share with the rest of the group, just put it in this, and then I'll bring the slide up at the end, and we'll talk about them if there's some time. We're going to start with a video. I've watched that video 50 times, and every time it gets me, because it takes me back to the early 90s when this dork up here decided he was going to go work with his PowerBook 100 at a summer camp for disabled people. And I spent 2 summers working with campers of all kinds of different disabilities. Down syndrome, Prader-Willi syndrome, cerebral palsy, Walker syndrome. And we had a great time. And it was the hardest job I have ever done. But it was also the most rewarding job I've ever done. And the thing I take away from all of this is, great experiences, great memories. But also the knowledge that I know to a very precise point where my breaking point is, because I found it working with the disabled population. And that's a valuable thing to know. So I have wonderful memories. And it brings me back also to thinking about the operating systems that Apple makes and how much time, 40 years, Apple's had 40 years of building accessibility options into their operating system. And I remember thinking back in the 90s, if only I had the tools available to me to help these people communicate. Maybe it was an autistic kid who was nonverbal. We didn't have the tools that we have today. And Apple's been building them into our operating system to help people who are disabled in all kinds of different ways. And I think back, if only I had those tools. We had pointer boards and picture boards and American Sign Language. And now we have tools built into the OS that really help people with disabilities communicate and make their lives better. Yes, Mac OS does contain a voiceover assistant, a screen reader called VoiceOver. Everyone knows this. It's a little bit of a joke with the Mac admin community. There's a reason why it's in front of every single setup, because there are people out there with disabilities. And Apple made the decision, and I believe it's the right one, to put this in the front and make everybody see it. Because you don't know if the person receiving that laptop or that Mac or that iPhone or that iPad or that Apple Vision Pro, if they have a vision disability or a motor disability or a cognitive disability or a hearing disability. VoiceOver is basically a way to control your computer with your voice. So if you're a person who's paralyzed, you can drive your computer with your voice. And I'll have a quick demo of that later. There's a VoiceOver utility you can run through if you haven't played with this. I know we joke about VoiceOver being there. Go play with it. Just spend 10 minutes with it, navigating around your computer with your voice. Zoom is probably the one that's used the most. I do not know if this is on by default, but if it's not, turn it on, because you may discover you find yourself using this all the time. And the shortcuts are highlighted right there. It's Command-Shift plus and Command-Shift minus. It'll let you zoom in under the cursor on the screen. If you've never done that, play around with it. Super useful when you're presenting as a school teacher or in a group. You can zoom in on a piece of text to make it larger without having to change the format on anything. This is one that I love. When Apple decided, I believe incorrectly, to make the menu bar translucent in, I believe it was Sonoma, but it might have been Ventura, it started to drive me nuts because I personally need a white menu bar. I can't do translucent. I cannot deal with my menus, the background picture bleeding through the menu bar. And so the very first thing I do in every system that's mine is I go into display and I go into increase contrast and reduce transparency. That's the things highlighted there in red, and it makes my menu bar translucent. Yes. And then the other thing I do is sometimes, depending on the system I'm on, I will also do increased contrast, which puts a 1 pixel line around all of the different elements. And so this is useful for somebody who might have a visual disability because it helps the buttons and the outline of things show up better. So there's something you can play around with as well. There's invert colors. Some people have a visual disability where they have difficulty seeing colors, and so you can invert it. If you've never done that, play around with it. You can also reduce motion. This one's very useful on the iPhone. For people who have motion sickness, you can turn on reduce motion, and it helps with motion sickness if they're driving in a car trying to use their phone. As a passenger, please. Okay. Spoken content. So I was playing around with this the other day, and I thought, what's a practical application for spoken content? Anybody can take a word and highlight it and say start speaking, but what's a practical use that somebody maybe without necessarily a disability might be able to use? And I came up with this idea. There's all kinds of foreign words and towns and cities out there where I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Corning recently opened up a Center for Excellence IT Center in India, and I wasn't entirely sure how to pronounce the name of this city. And so you can go and ask the operating system how to pronounce it. And in my discovery, I've discovered it's usually correct. So this is actually pronounced Pune, right? Pune, not Poon, right? Or even Pune, although sometimes that's acceptable. In Apple's AirPods Pro 2, they were able to get FDA clearance to allow the AirPods 2 to be a certified hearing aid. And this is important because if you've ever worked with the elderly population, there is still, unfortunately, a stigma around hearing aids. I don't like it, but it's part of our culture. There is still a stigma. And there are a lot of elderly people who need hearing aids who will not wear them. Now, how many of you are old enough to remember when AirPods started to show up 10, 15 years ago? And at first we were like, what on earth is in their ears, right? That's so weird. What are you doing? That's crazy. But now culture has shifted enough that it's super common to see AirPods in almost anybody's ears at any given time. Apple recognized that, and they said, well, let's see if we can make the Apple AirPod Pro 2 a hearing aid device. And they got clearance about a year ago, and then the new model, this is now a certified, FDA-certified hearing aid device. And yeah, it's also quite a bit. Thank you. It's also quite a bit cheaper than actual hearing aids from like a hearing aid company.
And no insurance, no specialist referral, no loads of phone calls.
Yeah, just a reminder that you can't hear anything.
Yep.
Also, no having to get referred to a specialist, no having to wade through whatever insurance, flaming hoops there may be to jump through, getting referred, making calls, setting appointments, getting to appointments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
For those of you who aren't already following Steve Heyman, the now retired Apple employee who's given presentations here, lately he's been blogging, or actually blogging too, about this, hearing aids, because as a musician, he needs hearing aids, and even, can I use hearing aids and AirPods? So lots of information on this particular topic that he's dealing with, because he's personally dealing with it, and I know I'm going to get there too.
Yep. So I was super excited to see this. I have a new pair of AirPods. I don't necessarily need them, but I've been playing around with it just to learn like how it works as a hearing aid. What the disability that I have is that if I'm in a crowded room and there's lots of background noise and chatter, I have a really hard time picking out an individual's voice. It's some type of auditory disability that I've had my entire life. And so I've been playing around with some of the settings in the inaccessibility sound to reduce some of that background noise while I'm wearing AirPods. And it's pretty good. It works. It's getting better and better. Here's an example of what I was just talking about. We've got, you can flash the screen on your phone or your computer when a sound alert comes. So obviously if somebody's deaf or hard of hearing, they can't hear the beep. And so you can flash your screen. I've recently turned that on my phone, and sometimes I'll look down and my phone's like, my pocket is flashing, flashing white, and I'm like, oh yeah, I turned that on. You can do spatial audio following head movements. So some people have almost a type of audio vertigo, where as they're moving their head around, the audio processing in their brain doesn't follow the sound well. And so turning this on can help with the sound following the head movement. This is a fun one. Did you know that there's a built-in white noise generator in Mac OS and iPad OS and iPhone OS? I didn't know this. I learned it the other day. I was like, this is cool. Yeah, like who needs, I've had an app on my phone for years called White Noise. And I turn it on at hotels because I don't want to hear in fact, at home I sleep with a fan on, right? Because I want that white noise. But I don't travel with a fan. So I use the white noise machine while I'm sleeping in a hotel. I'm like, this is built into the operating system now. And you can set it to, there's rain, fire, white noise, purple noise, a few others. We're going to skip the demo. I was going to bring it up and show it to you. But, yeah. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so voice control is fun. I will do a demo on this because I want to show off one of my pets. If you go turn on, I went too far. If you go and, of course, I'm having trouble exiting my presentation. If you go and turn on voice control, so system settings, you can still see that. Oh, it's not showing. Can I drag that over? Yes, I can. Yes, perfect. Except it's way over there now. If I go to accessibility, and then I go to speech, shortcuts. Nope. Sorry, I have it in my notes. Well, I can turn it on. All right, we're going to skip the demo because I don't like the way this is set up. I should have practiced this ahead of time. All right. The idea is that you can control the operating system with your voice. And I set up a demo where I have a cat named Carter. And if I turn on voice control, I can program the computer to say, I can say things like, Carter, and then it will pop open a picture of Carter in preview. So it's kind of fun, all with my voice. Okay. Yeah, because I have a couple more demos I want to show off. Yeah, can we? That's a little better there. Okay. Yeah, that's probably good. Yep. Okay. Sticky keys and slow keys. Some people have. So some people have physical disabilities, right? Maybe they've got a muscular disability in their arms and hands, and so they're very heavy typers, right? So Apple has built into its operating system sticky keys and slow keys to help with that kind of disability. I do this one, a couple text replacements. You can build, there's a program called Text Expander. It's been around a long time. Super useful, also kind of expensive. Apple has its own little basic text expander built into the operating system. And so I've built a couple shortcuts. At Mac, brings up my personal email address. At work, brings up my work email address. And you can add in there as many as you want. And they synchronize via iCloud between your devices.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Speech to text is a lot of fun. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
For the text replacement, 1Password now has that built in. And since 1Password is generally on all your devices, it will bring that across.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. Okay. Speech to text is a lot of fun. I use this sometimes in the background if I'm in a meeting and I know the meeting's not being recorded, but I want some type of dictation of what I've said. I have this running just in a text document in the background, and it picks up my voice and basically dictates everything to a text document. So I have like a built-in transcript notes that I can refer back to. Like, what did I say to so-and-so about that thing? I can go back and refer to my text-to-speech or speech-to-text. I can demo this. I've turned my hotkey for this to be the function key twice to turn it on. So if I go here to notes, I drag that over there, and I hit function key twice. And now when I start talking, the computer will record the words that I'm saying. New paragraph. I grew up in a working class family of 7. I had 4 brothers and sisters. My parents were public school teachers, and while we were never in danger of going hungry, it's also true that there wasn't a lot of extra stuff in our lives. Our toys were simple and cherished. Our meals were homemade. When we did go out to eat, it was always at an all-you-can-eat place like Bonanza or Ponderosa, so that we could all take an extra meal home in a doggy bag. While grocery shopping, often with my brother and I riding on the bottom shelf of the cart by the wheels, we'd ask our parents for candy, in the checkout aisle where all the candy is. My parents always said no. We can't afford it, or you don't need candy. It's bad for you anyway. In fact, we got candy so rarely that I can vividly remember the first time I tasted a Butterfinger candy bar. One day, my father, probably tired of listening to his children beg for candy at the grocery store, acquiesced. Okay, you may have candy, but I get to pick it. The ensuing debate among the 5 of us was furious. But we ultimately decided that any candy was better than no candy. My father, of course, picked the worst candy that he could find. Orange styrofoam circus peanuts. Perhaps he was trying to teach us a lesson. It didn't matter. I have a clear memory of sitting 5 across in the back seat of the car, savoring those circus peanuts. When my own son was about 4 years old, I would often go on a walk with him down to the CVS near our home. And like all kids everywhere, he was drawn to the immense aisles of candy, most of it directly at his eye level. He would ask and I would refuse, until one day my father's wisdom echoed down through the ages. And I made the same deal with my son that my father had made with my brothers and sisters. I picked, of course, circus peanuts, which my son ate with a smile on his face. all the way home. His dad looked on with his heart in his hands and tears in his eyes. So, thank you. Something I wrote a number of years ago, and I thought, that's a great example to do, dictation, to show you guys it's fairly accurate. Like, they did a pretty good job.
Would it pick up other voices if somebody else is talking?
It does, a little bit. Here, let me play this again.
The question was,
Yeah.
would it pick up other voices if it was talking? Because, I'm sure most of us probably work in a cube farm, and there's always other noises. And in fact, in most of our meetings, we make fun because there's this guy right next to us on the other side of the cube. We call him Loud Talker because whenever he talks, everybody can hear him. And like during our scrum calls, like half the time we can just hear what he's saying because like he's so loud. But yeah.
Apple has a solution for that, and that is buy a pair of AirPods.
Yes, I was going to say that. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, yeah. I was going to say that my experience is, yes, if you're using the built-in microphone, it will pick up some background noise. But the audio isolation in the AirPods is pretty good.
The punctuation.
Oh, yeah. And you saw me do it early there where I said new paragraph. I didn't do that this time, but you can. And you can also say period, exclamation point, and all that.
Yeah, but even without that, it was like,
Yeah.
it was trying to go back and trying to fix things.
And-
And it missed a bunch of times, but it was
Yeah.
still fascinating to watch.
And it's amazing that it's getting better and better and better. Apple has not stopped working on the accessibility options in the OS. It just gets better and better and better. Right. I have a lot to do still. Okay. Text to speech, we did that. I'm sorry, we did speech to text. Now we'll do text to speech. This works really well. You can, of course, you've probably played with this with the say command in terminal. You can have the computer read text to you, right? Very useful for somebody who's visually impaired. This was introduced in 2023 with Sonoma, or the other one, all right, about 2 years ago. It's called Personal Voice. And I started playing around with it because, and I didn't even know about it until I stumbled across it on a blog post with somebody who has ALS. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting because one of the reasons I fell into working with the accessibility stuff is because we have a research and design center at Corning that's 2 million square feet. It's enormous. It's the size of a university. And our leading scientist in photovoltaic glass, PV glass, has been diagnosed with ALS. And by happenstance, I ended up working with him, getting him a Mac, working through some of the accessibility options, teaching him how to do some of the things in the OS. And now we've moved on to other operating systems, iPad OS and Vision OS, which I'll talk about later on. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to work with Jim so he can start recording his personal voice so that if his ALS ever progresses at the point where he loses his voice, which sometimes happens with ALS patients, he'll have his voice recorded for his kids and his family, and he'll be able to use it. So I spent some time doing this on my own. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It's built into the operating system. You read a number of different phrases, and then it processes for about half an hour or so, and then it generates a personal voice which mimics your voice. And so I'll give you a quick example of what that looks like, because I did it on my system. So if we go back over here and we go to my Circus Peanuts story, I'm just going to read the first sentence or two here. And if this sticks, it should use my personal voice and not the built-in voice. You guys can see that okay? Yeah, good. And that's, where are you? Speech.
I grew up in a working class family of 7. I had 4 brothers and sisters. My parents were public school teachers, and while we were never in danger of going hungry, it's also true that there wasn't a lot of extra stuff in our lives. Our toys were simple and cherished. Our meals were homey. When we did go out to eat, it was always at an all-you-can-eat place like Bonanza or Ponderosa, so that we could all take an extra meal home in a doggy bag.
So not perfect, but not bad, right? Now imagine somebody who actually doesn't have a voice anymore. The ability to have this recorded and be able to flexible enough to be used in almost any environment that's with the operating systems is incredible. I will say, I meant to say it earlier, I don't know the copyright on these videos. I'm taking a risk by including these videos. If for some reason during in YouTube later on, if you're watching this in the future, and you want to watch these videos, but they're not included because of copyright for some reason, they get clipped out or they get muted, there's a QR code after each video that takes you to the YouTube or Vimeo link where you can watch them. Okay, so that's really not for you guys, but for people watching the YouTube video later on. Okay. Another video that Apple put together called The Lost Voice. So if you'd like to watch that video later on, there's the Vimeo link. I'll admit that this one is a little bit personal for me. I lost my first wife 11 years ago, before this existed. And she had throat and tongue cancer and lost her voice. And I would have given anything to have her voice recorded. I'm sorry. For my kids to be able to hear her. So, okay, I'm sorry. iPad OS. This is being used quite a lot by people with disabilities. He didn't have the tools available to him, and then he did. And he went from being somebody who couldn't speak or contribute to now at MIT. And it's an incredible story. And it's one of the reasons I continue to work in technology. The way in which we can take technology and amplify people's abilities, or use the accessibility options to allow them to be more productive and engaged in our community and our society. It's why I keep doing what I'm doing. Example of an easy way to set up an iPad. If you have somebody who's developmentally disabled and they don't have a lot of control over like how to use an iPad, you can set it up with in like single app mode or a very simple setup. I like to call it the at ease setup. There's your reference to the 1990s. Okay. Single app mode. This is a program called ProLoquo to Go. It's very heavily used in the autistic community. It's a picture board, but it's a digital picture board that can be customized in all kinds of different ways for each user. Okay, there is a new platform, Vision OS. I was able to get a Vision OS at work, and I was able to get my ALS scientist a Vision Pro as well, because we are exploring the possibility of Vision OS being a platform for him to keep him productive at the company as his condition continues to advance. And it's all exploratory still. We're spending about 6 months or so with him. There's some hurdles around Microsoft Access and a few things we're trying to get over, but it's starting to work. And it's important to understand that, yes, I'm doing this for work, but I'm also doing it for him, because at some point he won't work at Corning and he'll still have ALS. But if we've been able to get him to the point where he's super comfortable using the Apple Vision Pro, that might be his communication platform in a couple of years or 5 years or 10 or who knows, at home outside of work. I stumbled across this video of a new wheelchair from Strut. And let's watch this.
What's up, guys? 2F0T. And I just got back from CES, where I saw a lot of cool tech, from cars to tractors to robots to Vision Pro accessories and other VR headsets. But the coolest thing that I saw by far has to be the Strut EV1 portable mobility vehicle. It is the next step in wheelchairs and mobility. And the team from Strut actually came out to me, and they're having me demo not only the chair, but this amazing functionality that utilizes the Strut as well as the Vision Pro to control a wheelchair with just my eyes, which is unbelievable. And it's going to change the way that people with physical disabilities get around. Currently, I am wearing a Vision Pro and I'm in the Strut EV1, and I am able to, just by looking at a different place that I want to go to, I'm able to have the wheelchair just take me there. And that is just so crazy. I'm looking in my screen, I have a couple different options. I can click a button and it will move me 45 degrees. I can click it again and it will turn me, or I can just look anywhere on the ground and then I click on this little guy and it just takes me there. That is so cool. That is crazy. And there's another option. I just click the forward button and then I can just turn my head. It will go forward and it will take me there. But one of the coolest things about this wheelchair is that it has a feature called glide mode. So even if I'm going straight and straight and straight, it will stop if it sees somebody or an object or a wall, and it will go around them. So if I tell it to go forward and I turn my head in the direction that I want to go, and I try to come at this gentleman here, it will go around him or stop. So you don't have to worry about running into people, running into walls, knocking things over. The wheelchair will stop for you.
So that kind of independence is there. That gives him that kind of independence because Apple's been working with the Apple Vision Pro and with this company called Strut to make this happen. And I imagine there's quite a number of people who are, they're quadriplegic or they have a disability like this, a birth disability like this man, where this kind of technology will drastically improve their lives. So let's actually look at some of the Apple Vision Pro accessibility options like within the operating system. I chose to show another video from somebody who's using this regularly. I don't have the disabilities these people have, so I could certainly sit there and record it, but it's not the same. I felt it was better and more powerful to actually show a video of somebody who has a disability who is using the Apple Vision Pro and the accessibility options within the operating system.
Today I'm going to show you how I use the Apple Vision Pro without hands. You'll get to see why I believe that this device is the world's most accessible piece of technology ever made. And although I believe that to be true, it doesn't mean there can't be improvements to it. And I hope to work with Apple to improve them. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to use it, take notes, and help people with disabilities take full advantage of this amazing technology. Now let's get started. I'm going to show you the accessibility features I use most to operate the Apple Vision Pro without hands. Let's open up the accessibility options, and believe me, there's a lot. So we're not going to go over all of them. We're just going to go over the ones that I've been using for the past couple weeks to help me day in and day out use the Apple Vision Pro. This is my favorite accessibility feature. It's called Sound Actions. Early on, when I first started using the Apple Vision Pro, I turned on voice control and I was saying tap, 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 and they got super repetitive. And so I turned off voice control and I found Sound Actions, and it's incredible. I'll show you right now. So I can just make with a sound of my mouth, I can do things like to bring up my apps or to close them. With a click of my tongue, or it's called a cluck of my tongue, I can tap on certain things. And so here's all the ones you can do, and we'll go into the practice menu here. E, la, m, o, u, But one of my favorite things is I could be looking wherever and show my apps and take them away. The pop sound is my favorite. I do notice that if I'm talking, I have to pause for a second and then do the noise. And that's Sound Actions. The next thing I want to show you is dwell. It's another thing where you don't have to make noises or anything. You can just use your eyes and you can control pretty much everything on the Apple Vision Pro. I'm going to show you that now. So there's this menu here. It's called the dwell menu. And it's attached to the assistive touch menu, but you just look at it and you can start it. And right now my gesture is scroll, but there's long press, drag, and tap. But for right now, I want to just show you tap. I'm going to open my apps, and I'm going to look at Safari. Open up Safari. Oh, look at this website here. And now with this, I can tap different pages just by looking. Another cool thing about Dwell is the dragging. So I can look at the bottom of that window over there, tap it, and look up, and drag it to here. Or I can drag the corner of the window, look over here, and drag it really big. And I can look here, drag it down, and boom, there it is. So when you're watching a video or you're watching or you're looking at a website, you can drag the corners, or you can move windows around. So I can have this window, click and drag, move that window over there. And then I can move my settings, or another window over here in front of my shoes.
A lot of shoes.
And as you can notice,
great. I love it.
didn't say a word. It's just me looking with my eyes, holding, tapping, and looking somewhere else with my eyes. And the screens move. And
So no keyboard, no mouse, all driven with his eyes and his voice. Very, very powerful. And again, I want to refer back to if we had this technology in the 90s, we could have been using that with the disabled people I was working with. But we didn't have it. And so I very much appreciate Apple for continuing to push the envelope and include accessibility options in all of their operating systems. Number of resources I want to point out, and then we're going to do the Menti thing at the end. Obviously, Apple has an accessibility page. If you've not seen this yet, go check it out. There's a lot of information here, but if you're just getting started looking at accessibility, here's a good place to start. Disability In, very well-known advocacy group for people who have disabilities. They just had in fact, they have a big conference this week down in Miami that I couldn't go to because I'm here. But fantastic group. You can join and learn a lot about disabilities and how to be an advocate for people with disabilities. I am in New York State, so I need to point out that we have a Center for Disability Rights started in Rochester, and it's expanded since. Again, an advocacy group for people with disabilities. Team Gleason is, or he's still alive, was a New Orleans Saints player, and he was diagnosed with ALS maybe 10 years ago, don't quote me on that, and has since made a foundation that focuses on people with ALS, and again, an advocacy group. Very active group. Gleason has been talking to Apple quite a bit about using their technology with people with ALS. And then again, I'm in New York State, so I need to point out that New York State has an accessibility webpage where if you are looking for things to do that are accessible in New York State, you can go right to this page and learn about all of the different places in New York State that are visitable by people with all kinds of disabilities. All right, let's do the Menti quiz, and then we'll do Q&A. So that is here. And so if you recall, I asked you guys, go away, if I can make that bigger. Yes, I can. I'm going to use the zoom to make it bigger. I asked you guys if there was any accessibility option that you'd like to share. So if you see yours up here and you'd like to talk, we can throw the box around.
So, my boss actually demoed this at a town thing we did, a while back, but he had to talk to one of our users, and they were hard of hearing, and what he found out that there was a way, and again, I don't know the commands to do this, but if you're in a meeting and you're talking to somebody, you could have a closed caption, pretty much, what they're saying, and they can close caption what you're saying, and it was actually helpful, because the person was just able, to do all that, so, I don't know, again, how to turn it on, but it was a really cool feature.
Yeah, captioning has gotten a lot better in the past couple of years. Most of the chat applications, Teams and Zoom, have captioning built in now. I did not highlight that in my presentation, but thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, we use Copilot, and we have it integrated with Office 365, so most of my meetings are transcribed and everything, and like all the notes are just taken by Copilot, which is amazing. I know it's not an Apple thing, but, we're getting there. So.
Yep.
We've got more.
Anyone else? I mean, I can read some of these, or if you guys can share. Like I see Be My Eyes is an app where blind or low vision users can request assistance, and a notification goes out to several volunteers and then pairs the user with a sighted volunteer to perform a task together. That's great. Yep, yep.
I have it, and so occasionally it's sort of like getting a FaceTime call, and then you help people with all different things. Like I've gotten calls for, I have a few shirts here and I want the red one, and I can't tell which one is the red shirt. Or I'm looking at the tea in the tea cabinet and I want the chamomile, which container is the chamomile, because they're like all the same size box. And so, I've had it for a long time, and I've only ever gotten a handful of calls. So I think there's a lot of volunteers. So mostly I want other people to know, because it's also kind of a nice random thing. And you may not get the call, like the first, I think they send it out to several people at the same time. And then one, like whoever answers it. So it's sort of like, so every once in a while it'll ring on my computer, on my phone. And when I go to answer it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting a call. And by the time I get there, like, somebody else has already answered it. So, but it's also an easy thing that people can use. I don't know what the experience is like for the person making the call, but on my end, it's like your phone rings, and then you get to help somebody out with a random thing, or there's some very small text. Can you tell me what that says? Yeah.
I do like the one in the bottom right, text size on your phone. I'm getting older, right? Glasses get, every year my glasses get renewed, new prescription, stronger prescription. I've increased the size of the text on my phone, 100%, absolutely. And that's built right into the accessibility options. Someone last night shared one with me that I didn't know about, which is red light shifting. There's a red color filter you can put on your phone so that if you're in say in a movie theater and you don't want that screen brightness to distract from anybody, or if you're out with a group of astronomers and you don't want the light pollution from your phone, but you still need to use the phone because maybe there's an app on there you need to use to control the telescope or something like that, you can put the red filter on it in the accessibility options pane, and it will not have the light pollution that you're trying to avoid. Does somebody want to talk about reduced white point?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Brad.
We got one.
All right, so this is a display setting in accessibility that I discovered some time ago that reduces the white point and the apparent brightness of the screen to a minimum level. And I also paired this with the accessibility shortcut of triple click on the side button, and used to be the Touch ID button when I had an older phone. What this will do is it dims the display to like a quarter of what it would normally be, and I use this a lot at night. Right before I'm going to bed, I turn the display brightness way down. I've also used this at night while driving. I'll turn on the reduce white point and then turn the display brightness up to maximum. It's just bright enough to see the phone and see the map or whatever I need to look at without it being a blinding distraction in the car. Yeah, so I like that one a lot.
That's a good one. Thank you, Brad. That's great. Anybody else? I like back tap on phone. Somebody talked about that. Okay. Do you guys know what back tap is on the phone? Okay. So you can program that to do whatever, almost anything you want on the phone. Yep. Yep. Okay, I want to repeat that. Make sure you know which one's SOS. Actually, I'll let you say it. Go ahead.
Now, I had it, I forget, I think it was my older version phone. I had it because my eyes are getting bad too, and I had it, so the Magnify app would open when I triple tapped it. And apparently, when I updated to whatever, I triple tapped it and it was calling SOS. I'm like, oh crap. And like, just canceling it is like, you got to do all these different things. And I'm like, so, but yeah, there is a Magnify app now just on the iOS, and I use it quite often. I have still the normal version of the iPhone. My wife refuses to use reading glasses, so she got the Plus because she just refuses to.
And that's that stigma thing again, right?
Yeah. For me, it's also I do need hearing aids, and I kind of I have autism, so I kind of like the silence most of the time. But I do have AirPods in case I do need to do it. I do find it useful because there's the adaptive listening, and it filters out the background noise, but it helps you focus on people who are talking, which is good because like sometimes it gets too much noise, and it's hard to focus, hard to do things. So definitely, noise cancellation and Apple technology is amazing with stuff. So.
All right, over here.
So two things on there. One was also the noise blocking. We call it neurospicy at our house.
Yep,
But,
sure, neurospicy. Yeah, that's great.
So my youngest daughter actually travels everywhere with AirPods so that she can turn them on and turn on noise canceling and everything. Also, we're a bizarre house. My husband has severe tremors. And so the ability to reduce the responsiveness of his mouse, or even when he's using a pencil, to pretty much nothing, and that lessens a lot of frustration. We've been through several different kinds of mice, but actually just turning it to almost nothing. So he's literally like dragging it across the screen. Also reducing or actually increasing the amount of time between clicks.
Yep.
For him.
Mm-hmm.
So because he spasms and so it freaks out. So yeah.
Those are excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Remember that about 20 to 25% of the people in the country, and I'd even say world, have some type of disability. A lot of invisible disabilities we don't know about. We can't see. They're not obvious. I would ask that, maybe as a closing statement, that everybody remember that. And the best advice is to always be kind. And then I'm going to ask you individually to be an advocate. Be an advocate. Use your technology skills to help somebody with a disability have a better life. That's one of the reasons I decided to do this presentation. Just be an advocate. Use your tech skills. Be kind. And make the world a better place. Do you want to go?
Just about your comment about mouse motion and click delay. I think that's interesting that you bring those two up because I remember those have been in Mac OS since probably System 6, maybe even earlier. And I remember that I was always setting that because it was too slow for me. And as a kid, I was doing that. And that has been, this accessibility stuff has been built into Mac OS since the very, very, very early days.
40 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
At my house, it's habanero. You're welcome. I learned that here last year, so that's me contributing to my community. But also, The Lost Voice. That video was directed by Taika Waititi, and the book that the guy is reading to his daughter is a book that you can get from Apple.
Okay,
I don't
that's
know if
great.
it's available anywhere else. I only, their press release, shocker, only links to it in the Apple bookstore. Yeah, I remember that. But it is a thing that exists, so the book that you are hearing being read in that movie is a real thing. So I thought I remember talking about that, and those were the two things that I remembered out of it. It was for International Day of Accessibility. a year or two ago. I put the
Yeah,
link to the book.
July
in
is
the-
International is Disabilities Month, Disabilities Awareness Month.
Yeah.
So
They
maybe,
released the video
Yeah.
for something, I don't remember exactly
Okay.
what, but it was the day. And my dad has hearing aids, and he has an Android phone. I'm adopted. And, but his hearing aids work with his phone. So I'm not sure what, Damien, maybe you know more about the relationship between if you do have hearing aids, how they will work with iOS or maybe macOS. But like my dad, like his phone, as far as his wife is concerned, his phone is basically silent because like the ringing and stuff, and I haven't had a chance to sit and talk to him about it because he just sort of casually mentioned it to me the other day, that like everything happens within his hearing aids instead of having to have everything at maximum volume or put on a pair of headphones or something to hear it. So somehow the VA was able to help him get that all hooked up, and I thought that was really cool. So the next time I go visit, I'm gonna have a bunch more information about that, but I found out it was possible. So Android is also doing some of those things to be accessible as well. So for that green bubble person in your family, like they may have options too.
all right, one more over here. Yep.
Just wanted to give you a tip. So I don't fly that often, but you know, my family is international and it's long flights, and I found Sony makes a really good headset. I think it's the WH something like Yeah, and those are great, and they have like a battery life of like 30 hours, even with noise cancellation on. So like, you know, the AirPods are great for like work and stuff like that, but like when you're flying like
Right.
long distances, you don't want to have to stop and recharge your AirPods, and actually, you know, what made me get those because they are amazing. I got some for my daughter as well because she just recently flew Greece, and like I bought it for her birthday, and I'm like, they're amazing. So, and the noise cancellation is amazing. Last flight I was on, apparently kids were crying. I had no clue. So,
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming to this presentation. Thank you. And I want to quickly repeat what I said earlier. Please be an advocate. Please use your technology skills to help other people. And if you know somebody at Apple, reach out and thank them for all of the hard work they put into their operating systems to make the world a better place. Thank you.